Hey guys, this is GNO and I'm Claudia Lopez. Today I'm going to be interviewing filmmaker, director, and writer Alexander Lex King on her brand new film, Seven. Stay tuned.
Something about you is familiar.
Lay your head on my shoulder. Touch me one last time. Tell me that you're mine. Don't wanna be alone. I can't seem to let you go.
Hey Alexander King, Lex. What would you prefer?
Lex is good.
Lex, welcome to GNO and thank you so much for being with us and sharing this amazing experience. So before we get to the film, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you start and who has been your biggest motivation?
I kind of got into film because I used to write a lot when I was younger. I just never kept anything or I never did anything with it. So the older I got, I wrote more, and friends and family were just put it out there. So that's exactly what I did. As for inspiration, I'm gonna go ahead with my aunt. I have a lot of respect for her as a woman in her industry, so she gives me a lot of motivation.
You know that usually, parents, they want their kids to be in a very stable profession. Has your family been supportive in doing something as big as directing that has, that is non-traditional for a woman's profession, so to say?
Absolutely. They've been more than supportive. They're very much proud of me, and that's been, since I was younger, whether it was with the sports, whether, the fact that I went to college, they were always like super proud, and they kind of just let me be free, let me be me. And when I share, they're there with open arms, so.
It's very admirable to see a woman in a tough industry. And let's be honest, there's a lot of people who see filmmaking and directing as a man's field. What has been your biggest obstacle?
My biggest obstacle has nothing to do with gender.
Okay.
It's really coming down to being an independent filmmaker and getting that budget. For me, everything is self-funded and is crowd-funded. I didn't go to, I'm a self-taught filmmaker. I didn't go to school for it. This is everything that I just studied myself and turned it into a reality. So for me, the toughest part, like I said, has nothing to do with gender, but all to do with the budget.
So you're first generation in the industry?
Absolutely.
You woke up one day and said, I want to be a filmmaker.
I woke up and I said, I'm going to do this. I wrote, I have a web series called Aquarius.
Okay.
Aquarius, a show. And I had a conversation with a friend, and then that night they were just like, man, just go write some stuff. And I wrote the entire season in a night. I mean, I made edits over time, but I don't know where it came from. The energy was just like, get that on paper. So that's what I did.
So how do you go about into getting sponsorship, or if anybody wants to sponsor, any of your shows or your films? I mean, how would one contact you, or how would you go about to reaching out and saying, hey, this is what I do. I'm very talented. And by the way, I've seen her films. She is. How does one go about to sponsoring you?
Just reach out to me. I'm not afraid to reach out to anybody and show them my work, and the old work, the new work. To me, it's like you can see my growth in such a short time. I've only been in the industry for like a year, and I see my own stuff, and I'm like, damn, I'm getting better.
Okay, that's good. I've always wanted to ask a writer, filmmaker, director this question. Never had the opportunity though, and it's crazy because I've interviewed a lot of people with this same profession, but this is actually my own curiosity. Your characters, are they strictly fictional, or do you meet somebody that has made such an impact in your life that you create a character based on that person?
I'm going to say they're not specific people, but they're definitely conversations of my experiences, and whether They're in places that I've been in that moment of my life, or there's conversations that I've pushed within myself, my friends, family. You know, I like to go there. I like to talk about things. I like, you know, things get awkward and I'm like asking all the questions. So yeah, like Queerious is definitely a representation of a lot of the spaces that I traveled through to get to where I'm at today.
Well, what about the actual stories? I mean, I asked you about the characters. What about the actual stories? You know, like if, for instance, something that happened to a friend of yours, a loved one, or yourself, do you put it on your stories? Or do you actually have this imagination that you make up everything that goes on in the films?
Yeah, it's imagination. I just kind of think of, you know, what I want to talk about and what point I want to get across and how I can portray that in a beautiful way. I don't want to discredit my community or discredit the work that we're doing. So everything I do is definitely with intention. And that's what I love about, you know, my work, is that it's intentional.
You did mention Queerious TV for our viewers out there. Can you share with us a little bit of how that was born, who created it, and what is Queerious TV and why the name?
Queerious TV is my baby. So Queerious TV, basically I wanted to better represent queer people of color in the community on film. And sometimes I feel that there can be a misjudgment of who we actually are. And I sometimes see films, you know, with, let's say, a masculine presenting woman, and I'm like, that's not me. That doesn't relate to me. So I wanted to create something that relates to a little bit more people. And, you know, my DMs and emails have been like, wow, thank you for representing us. And, you know, that's the biggest thing for me. How I came about creating it, like I said, I had a conversation with a friend, you know, just to do something. And I came up with the name Queerious is more of like being curious of who you are. And you just happen to be queer. My content isn't only for the queer. My content is very, very open, and it's real life experiences. If you just take the gender away, it's the same stories.
All right, so now explain it to us then.
Explain which one.
So the part where you said, okay, so when you see a woman who is in touch with her masculine energy, you know, people have a misconcept of that.
Yeah.
So can you explain to our viewers, you know, for people who are not familiar with it but are interested or curious, what would you tell a person who sees a woman, you know, dressed in a more masculine outfit? What would you tell them for them to understand?
Sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I feel like it's not my responsibility to have to explain those things. And the reason I say that is because, like, I'm me.
Okay.
I'm me. I don't walk around and have to say, you know, I'm a masculine woman, I'm a feminine woman. It's like, I'm a woman and I take in all that comes with. And there's very feminine presenting women who have masculinity to them, but you don't see them because it's not the physical, what they show you physically, but it's there. It's just, you know, sometimes it's like, I'm not the spokesperson. I can only tell you about my experiences.
I love it.
I'm serious. I can tell you about my experiences, and that's not a conversation my first thought isn't to go to that. I want to connect with you on something else based upon energy, not about what you're wearing, not about if you look masculine or feminine.
So you don't like labels?
Labels are not for me. I understand that that's how people can understand things.
Yeah.
So I get it. So if someone labels me, it doesn't do anything to me. I'm me, you know, and I'm going to show up me every single time.
I like that. I'm me.
I like me, so.
The demographics, we're talking about how you want to share your gift with everybody about the queer colored women. Is that what you want the whole world to see what you offer? Or do you want to stay with one demographic?
I want them to see what I offer as a person, as a human, as a soul, as a vibration. It has nothing to do with my sexual orientation, has nothing to do with my gender, and it has all to do with if you're resonating with my work, then that's it. It's not gender-based.
Okay, would you ever consider in doing directing, filmmaking, or writing stories that isn't necessarily about queer women of color?
Absolutely. If you actually look at my work and take out the gender, our conversations are based on reality. It's based on things that actually happen. It's based on thoughts that people sometimes don't want to talk about. It's not based on whether it's a woman, whether it's a man, a trans person. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just take out the gender and it's the story. You know, how does that story make you feel? Does it make you think afterwards? Does it make you say, what would I do? If you can watch a film after, you know, something that I put out and you can literally ask yourself like, wow, what would I do? That's to me a success. That's good.
I absolutely love that answer, by the way. So what do you see yourself in the future? And before I move forward, you and I were talking about this backstage, that I don't believe in giving somebody a timeline. Like, what do you see yourself in 5 years or in 3 years? Because it gives you, I don't know, it just puts too much pressure. But as a gifted soul, and you want to share your gift with everyone in the future, it doesn't matter if it's in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years from now. Where do you see yourself?
I see myself being very happy and very successful. I see a lot of my stories being told, and I'm at the head of the table. You know, right now I'll take a seat at the table, but I want the head.
What do you prefer? Writing, filmmaking, directing?
Writing is like, I can get lost in my work and I love it. I love it. And directing, because I'm such a visual person, it does something else to me. It's like two separate things for me. Like writing and directing are two different worlds. Either one I can get lost in. So if you'll see with 7, I pushed a lot of limits and I pushed a lot of things that how I wanted to portray each and every scene. It's very much intentional and very much how my mind works. Like visually, the colors, everything is pretty much like how I write. Yeah.
Do you prefer to write about love, tragedy, action? Can you share a little bit? Just open up your mind and let us in for a few minutes.
Okay.
What's inside Alexander's mind?
I love for sure. But I love all parts of love, not just the stuff that make you feel good. I like the tragedy. I like to find the beauty in tragic. So for me, creating 7, which is a beautiful tragic love story, is very different because you see 2 separate characters and you have compassion for both of them. And you're like, you can be mad at someone, but realistically, you're like, oh, man, by the end of the film, like you're not even thinking of whose side. It's like, wow, what would I do? How would I react?
So 7 is your baby,
7
your
is
second
my
baby.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about the film.
7 is based on a fear. So I had a cousin who's no longer with us, passed away 3 years ago. Today's actually his birthday. And it was just, I was pushing thoughts about, you know, life, death, what that means. And I started writing 7, and I kept going deeper in the story because I kept asking myself, like, well, what could be worse than this? And I was like, oh, what if? Yeah, okay. So that's
I'm
not gonna tell them. But that's really how 7 it became. It just was me pushing such a tragic conversation and turning it into such a beautiful, beautiful film.
I actually watched the film. I was extremely impressed, and it made me want more. So it is a short film. Are you contemplating and maybe turning it into a full movie?
I am happy that you asked that. So because I think there's no limits with 7, I don't want
series?
My goal right now is to kind of shop around and take what was supposed to be a short film and turn it into a series, 7 Skies. So that's going to be what I'm working on. That's what I'm going to try to push out.
Okay. Well, I absolutely love this. I want to stay a whole hour with her talking about this amazing project, but of course, we can't do that. For people that want to see your film, how do they go about it?
You can it'll be available December 7th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
777.
They're very intentional. And it's going to be available on QuariusTV.com.
QuariusTV.com. Now, for the viewers and future fans, how are they going to find you on social media?
I am on pretty much all platforms at I Am Alexander King.
At I Am Alexander King. Make sure you follow her. Yes. Make sure you do. Welcome back to GNO. I'm your girl, Claudia Lopez, and we are here with Alexander King, filmmaker, writer, and director. And we're talking about her brand new baby, her project, the short film 7. How do one go about to watching this film?
You can actually check us out on December 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time at QuariusTV.com.
QuariusTV.com. And okay, let's go back to the film.
Let's get
all
into
right?
it.
The characters, right? I know that I had asked you previously if anybody or if a person who has impacted your life, if they inspire you into creating characters. In this film particularly, are these characters completely made up, or did you have somebody in mind when you wrote them in the story?
No, the characters are completely made up. I originally was going to play 7, only because I really didn't have anyone else to play it. And then I also talked myself into pushing myself with all aspects of film, and acting being one. It's not my thing, but you know, if I'm gonna get better, I gotta practice.
Hold on one second. I have seen Aquarius TV, and she has a character there, and I don't know what she's talking about. She is an amazing actress. She does a really good job, so I think that she's being extremely humble.
Grand Rising.
Good morning.
So, I've never done this before. So do I just leave, or do you want me to stay? Do you want to hang out?
I guess we can kick it. I have to go to my friend's brunch. You want to come?
Sure.
Okay. Shower's first door on the right. Takes a minute to heat up.
How do you cast your characters?
So originally for Aquarius, it was a bunch of friends. It's like, hey, you know, some people off Instagram friends, like, hey, I'm doing a passion project. Do you want to be a part of it? And they were all like, absolutely. And it blew up out of nowhere. We weren't expecting that. For 7, I had sat on 7 for a while. I wrote this like maybe 2 weeks before we got quarantined, and I just didn't do anything with it. We were shut down, didn't put much thought into it. And the people who read it, I let a few of my close friends read it, and everyone was attached to it. It was like, I want in. But I'm very happy that everything just kind of slowed me down, because I casted perfectly. I couldn't have picked the better 2 people to be in this film, which is Cole Lawson. She plays 7. And then we have Porter Gabrielle, and she plays Sky.
They're both amazing actresses, by the way. Like I mentioned before, I watched the film several times. So when you cast, let's say for this particular film, do you have in mind how you want her to look, how you want her demeanor to be, or do you see somebody and say, well, I could work with that?
I'm very particular. So in my mind, I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew exactly how I wanted to be. I knew every scene, every angle. I knew it all until we did the auditions. And I got the auditions back, and I was like, okay, we're going to mix a little bit of both, because I fell in love with the auditions. It felt good to see other people get so like alive within my work. I was like, yeah, you're gonna get this part, you're gonna play this. And you know, the way they executed, I'm beyond thankful. I am beyond thankful.
So I'm curious, what did you want initially for those characters to be?
So 7 was, like I said, supposed to be played by me. And if it wasn't going to be me, I figured it was going to be a little bit more masculine presenting person.
Okay.
However, I went ahead and decided to cast 2 more feminine women. I wanted the story to be very gentle, and I knew that I couldn't give that much gentle that I ended up wanting it to be. I'm very gentle and loving and nice, but a little rough around the edges.
So when you found these 2 characters, I don't know. I'm like all into the backstory of the story. How did you break the news to them?
I let them both read it, and I wanted to wait in person.
Okay.
And I kind of was just like, yeah, you got it, you it. And it was like, I don't know. The emotions were like, wow, we're really doing this. And I think the more that we started filming, the more it became like, wow, this story, like we thought it was beautiful when we read it and it, you know, touched us emotionally, but filming it was a whole different level. Like each scene we're like, everyone's like silent on set. And when we're done, I'm calling, you know, cut. It's like, oh my God. Oh my, you just can't wait to see it all together. And Lewis is actually our director of photography. He filmed and he was just like, we worked so well together. I've never had anyone that I worked like that with. Like I get along with everyone, but this was like, his mind, my mind, put together, everyone on set. It was like when we were done, it took an extra day that, you know, longer than we thought, but we felt great. Like I felt great. I still feel great. And me seeing it for the first time, I'm like tearing up. Like, yeah, wow, this is me. My growth is, in a year, my growth has been a lot. And I took majority of that year off because of COVID, unfortunately. But then you watch it and you're like, oh, wow.
If you're able to go back in time and talk to Lex when you were 13, or if there's a little 13-year-old girl or boy who would like to pursue this difficult industry, what would your advice be?
My advice would be patient. Try to understand and know everything, whether it's you teaching yourself, you finding a job opportunity or something. YouTube helped me out. Google. I learned how to write a script off of YouTube, off of Google, like these websites they'll teach you, and I'm like, wow, okay. And that's literally how I started. But it can be discouraging when you're definitely not getting, like for me, I'm like, wow, I really want to have funding. Mm-hmm. And I could have easily said, well, I don't have the funding, I'm not going to do anything. But
that didn't stop you.
No, I worked off. I mean, I went off. I was doing everything to get the funding myself. And, you know, I took the chance, and it's going to come back. It's going to come back. If your work is genuinely good, it's definitely going to come back.
And it is genuinely good.
I appreciate that.
What is your Instagram, Facebook, social media? Let's repeat it again and again, because I really do. From my humble experience, I mean, I'm no critic or expert, but I see that you do have a lot of talent, and I would love for you to make it to the very top. So let's share again with our viewers, you know, if there's anybody out there who would like to sponsor this, you know, reach out to Alexander King. And can we repeat your Instagram again?
Yep, so you can find me on all social platforms at I am Alexander King. And
the YouTube?
So yes, YouTube is going to be Queerious TV. As for the website, will be QueriousTV.com.
All right, well, there you have it. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. I absolutely loved the story and the story behind the story. So we'd love to see you again and again, future projects. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. I'm Claudia Lopez. I'll see you next time.
Something about you is familiar.
Lay your head on my shoulder. Touch me one last time.